Hello, this is Anna Pacheco, SantaFe101.com, and my guest today is Connie Johnson. She's with Santa Fe Properties. Connie, do I have your permission to record this interview?
Yes, you do.
Oh, good. So, well, I know that you service primarily, or your main focus is Santa Fe County, but you also venture into Sandoval County and San Miguel County, which are neighboring counties to Santa Fe here.
Correct.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the, I mean, how I got your name and how wanted to interview you. So that I know you've currently listed a problem out at Cochiti Lake, which is on Pueblo land. So let's talk about that first. I want to hear about some of the interesting houses you've sold or properties or things that are coming up on the horizon to give our viewers an idea of what to expect in this area, this part of northern New Mexico.
Okay. Cochiti Lake is a community that was created on the Cochiti Pueblo Reservation. It has a state-of-the-art 18-hole golf course, a cafe, a golf shop. It has a gas station with a convenience store. It has its own EMT, and you can choose if you go to Santa Fe, Bernalillo, or Albuquerque. They have their own fire department. So it's a very nice community. There are about 569 residents as of the census of 2010. So it's lovely. It has wonderful views. It's a nice little community. People like to walk around and get to know each other and walk their dogs and ride bicycles. Many people have RVs and boats. Very easy to park there. They have a marina. There's a
There's a
lake.
lake there, right? There's a lake.
Yes,
I remember
there's
when
a
I was
lake.
little, my dad, I would go out there to fishing with my dad, so that you could fish
Mhm.
out there in addition to golfing.
Right, right. There's a lake and you can fish and boat on it. It's a no-wake lake, but so you can't water ski or something like that. But it's a very nice lake. It has RV parking with hookups. So a lot of people go out there. So the people, for instance, that have friends that like to come and visit and have RVs, they just go there. Um, it's a very friendly place. On the 4th of July, they have their own little um, parade, and they have an all community rummage sale once a year. So yeah, and the houses are very nice. They don't build out there anymore, so there won't be any more of that going on. Most of the houses are 2 bath, 3 beds. Sometimes it's 2 and 2. That's the majority of them. Some other ones are a little bit bigger, but many of them have wonderful views because it's up on a mesa.
And is it predominantly a retirement community, or do you see young families with children out there?
Well, there are young families with children out there. There is the Cochiti Elementary and Junior High School there. So there are children that live in Cochiti Lake. It's Cochiti Pueblo and Cochiti Lake. The Pueblo is a couple miles southeast of there, but you go right by it when you on your way to Cochiti Lake. So yes, there are children. There are a lot of retired people there, which they feel they can lock it up and go away, and they know their neighbors. And like I said, you can park your RV and your boats there, but it's not intrusive by any means because there's always some place you can park it by the side of the house or park it in the in dry dock or at the lake or wherever you want to put at
And,
least
and you were saying that people can just, lock up their house and go away. Does that, I mean, I was getting the implication that you're basically saying it's a safe community, that you don't have to worry. You can go away for several months and you'll come back and everything's still there.
well, we're not supposed to say that it's safe because then next thing you know, somebody breaks in, but people consider it a very safe neighborhood, very friendly, and that's why they like it. They feel like their neighbors are watching and they're very comfortable out there.
Well, for people that might be watching this, Cochiti Pueblo and Cochiti Lake, it's out of the way. So when you're going on Interstate 25 out of Santa Fe south to Albuquerque, you make a right-hand turn, but it's a good, it's about, is it 5 miles in? I mean, there's like a stretch of road, and then you make another right. Are you at least 5 miles from the interstate, or maybe more?
It's
Do you know what?
more. I want to say it's maybe more like 10.
Okay, well, I knew it was in, so that's probably one of the reasons that there's probably lower crime, because it's not easy to get to. I mean, if you're going to Cochiti or Cochiti Lake, it's probably because you know someone there. It's not like you're just going to cruise
Right.
around and try to find empty houses, because
Right.
you're probably right. It's probably 10 miles off the interstate. And I know what you say about the incredible views there. It's just a beautiful area. The one thing I always wonder about is, because I do know that Cochiti Lake is part of Cochiti Pueblo. So I know that you can buy the house, but you never actually own the land. I think
Correct.
you have some kind of a rule that after 99 years, which is we're probably about 50 years into that 99, if I'm not mistaken, around
Yes,
that. So
it's right.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. It's on the reservation land. So they have a lease. It started in the early 70s for 99 years. They're at, I think, about 52 years now left on the lease. And that's for the entire Cochiti Lake community. It's not per house. It's for the whole community. So when that ends, we don't know what will happen. But you own the house. You do not own the land.
So it's probably, I mean, I actually have had friends who've lived out there, they're retired, and they didn't have descendants. I mean, they don't care. I mean, they're going to be gone in 48 years. So for them, it's fine. But I guess that would, if somebody was saying, it's not like traditionally you buy a house, you can, I mean, like my house here in Santa Fe, when I pass on, it'll go to my two children. And that includes the land, but that wouldn't be the case at Cochiti. So so nobody knows what's going to happen, but what is the best case scenario, do you think?
Well, that they renew the lease, but I don't know that they would ever do that, and nobody knows. It's just hard to say. So that is a point I make when I help people buy and sell these homes, that we don't know what will happen, and I tell them the number of years, and everybody, people that don't care just say, well, I won't be around, so I guess I'm not going to worry about it. But that's what it is. You own the home and you don't own the land.
And I've also heard, and I don't know if this is true, but is it hard to get a mortgage out there because of not owning the land, or how does that work?
Well, I would say there aren't as many lenders that work out there because it's leasehold land. But there is a list of lenders that will lend out there, and there's only one or two title companies that will work out there as well. It's just the way it is. The other thing I would like to mention, unless you want to say something a little more about that first.
No, I just not so well, let me just ask you one last question then. Is it hard to sell a house out there? I mean, do people
No,
buy out there?
no, I've been selling out there for 15 years, and it's always really busy. And just like the rest of the market in New Mexico and the rest of the country, they're just flying out the door. As a matter of fact, right now, I think there aren't any available in Cochiti Lake. I closed 8 last year, and I'm closing 4 I'll be finished with those 4 at the end of March. And it's very active, and people really like living out there.
And just one last question then. So what is it? I know I have some other friends who aren't they're not much older than I am, and we're the same age maybe, and they're out there because it's more affordable. What is the cost differential from living in Santa Fe, the city of Santa Fe, versus Cochiti, more or less?
Well, you can get a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage for 175,000 to 275,000, which has a nice yard, and many of them have nice views. There are some that are a little bit more expensive, but it's very affordable. It's very nice. One thing I wanted to say is also, when you purchase in Cochiti, it needs to go before the tribal council to be approved. And they never don't approve anything. It's just that they want to know who's living there. When they first started out there, I heard they didn't have this procedure. And then when they wanted to send the water bill, they realized that person didn't live there anymore because it had been bought and sold and nobody had told them. So now what you do is you do your contract, your purchase, your inspections, everything you would do, just like you were going to close. But just before you close, those documents need to go before the tribal council. The council meets only once a month. So if they're going to meet, say, March 15th, but you have only been under contract for a week or so, you're not going to get all of your contingencies, like your inspections and all that, taken care of before the council meeting, because the lender and the title company need to complete certain documents pertaining to leasehold. So I always make sure people understand that after we go into contract, it could take another month because it has to go before the council. Once it goes before the council, it goes back to title and the lender. They do a few more things that they have to do, and we close a week to 10 days after that.
And
So
is there ever be a reason why they would refuse somebody, or why do they have to have that?
well, no, they don't refuse anybody. It's just that they want to know who's living there. As I said, I heard that when they first started this in the 70s, they didn't have that process. And they didn't know for sure who was living there because there were transactions going on that they weren't aware of. So they just want to know. They want to look at the purchase agreement. They, want to make sure that it's all funded and all that kind of stuff. And then they just give their stamp of approval.
And you mentioned water, so is the water system, all those basic necessities, is that all, that's all run by the Pueblo of Cochiti?
Well, gas and electric or P&M and, the usual. The water comes from Cochiti. So the fee right now, and it's been that way for quite some time, is $80 a month for trash, sewage, and water. And that's it. And
That's
then,
higher than Santa Fe.
yeah, but anyway, that's what it is. And, but it doesn't go up. It's just straight across. So if you use a lot of water or not so much water, it's the same bill.
But getting back to what I asked you about the cost of housing, so for say
Mhm.
270,000, I mean, something comparable in Santa Fe would be closer to 450 or 500,000.
Correct.
So there is
Right. Maybe not 500,000, but probably, 400.
So it's at least $130,000 difference for the same house.
Yes,
So it's more affordable there. So we
it
spoke,
is.
I don't want to just dwell on Cochiti Lake this entire interview. You wanted to mention some of the other interesting projects you're working on. So tell me about that right now.
Well, I do a lot of buying and selling in Santa Fe in, a variety of price ranges. I also go out as far as Pecos, Glorieta, Ribera, which are in San Miguel County. Cochiti is in Sandoval County. But I go wherever people really want to take a look, but those are the areas that I really focus on. And if people need help rearranging their houses or getting rid of things or trying to figure out how the house will look the best, I help them with that as well.
And are you involved in just land sales? I mean, no house on it, just like lots, that type of thing?
Well, yes, I mean, I do mostly houses, but I also work in land, and sometimes there's been a farm or so as well. It's just whatever people need, and yeah, but I would say residential mostly across the board.
And are you seeing, I interview a lot of Santa Fe realtors, so I know there's no inventory. I mean, I know things are really hot right now. Are there so you've been selling real estate now for, I guess, what, 15 years?
15 years here, and I worked a few years in Washington, D.C., and then Maryland and Virginia because they are right next door.
And so so when you got here, say 2005, 6 to now, what do you want to say about Santa Fe real estate? How has it evolved, or what's your impression of what's going on now?
Well, I think it's exciting. It's nice to have a lot of people come and be so interested in our state and our city. But everybody is a little exasperated in that there's just low inventory. We get a lot of 3 to 5 offers per house, and it's great for the seller, although a bit overwhelming, and it's hard for the buyers because I've been working with a young couple with a child for 5 months, and we jump right on them as soon as they're, on the market, but we get outbid, and everybody has their specific things they want. So, I wouldn't say that they're too particular, but it's a very busy market, and I've been very busy. And Cochiti is just amazing too, because so many people want to go out there. A lot of people want to get away. It's a good place to go.
And when you say outbid, so you're basically saying, like, say, the house goes on in the market for sale, it's 400,000, but then you'll start getting offers like, I'll do 420, I'll do 460. I mean, so you're getting people that are going over the market price.
Right. People coming from other states see this as a great opportunity because if you're coming from Los Angeles, 450 is not a bad price, for any house or more. So it just depends on where they're coming from. And yeah.
Well, I guess it can be discouraging for, younger families starting out because, that's what I basically say with, that's why I interview realtors in all 33 counties of New Mexico, because I mean, how many people can qualify for $1 million mortgage or something? I mean, a lot of houses, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I'm not in the real estate business, but, really nice, really cool houses in Santa Fe start at about 600,000 and up, really, unless you're
Right.
super lucky.
Actually, the median price of houses sold last year was a little over $500,000. But not everybody can afford that if you live in a city and, work in the services industry or something like that. So those houses are the ones below 500 that are really sought after.
And those are harder to come by for sure. And then you were
Right.
saying you've sold a couple of farms or something you've set up in San Miguel, or?
Yeah, one was over in Ribera. It was a beautiful place. It had an acequia running through it, and the Pecos River was in the back of the property. It had the original adobe home, and which usually they rented out, and then they had the regular home. So that was really pretty, and they had really spent a lot of time with their crops and developing it, and they were doing organic farming there. And then there was one up in Dixon, a very small one, but it had a lot of fruit trees and a little creek running through it. It's just so pretty.
And so are you finding people that are coming from out of state that want to be farmers, or they want to have an orchard? Or, I mean, I wonder about that, because that's a lot of work in itself.
Right. I'm finding people mostly that would just like a little land around them, even if it's in town and they just want to make sure they have a little backyard. A lot of people in Santa Fe have some kind of a pet, often a dog or two, so they want a little land for that, or maybe they have children. I don't know. I kind of feel like because of COVID, people are a little more conscious of having a little space around them. So a lot of people that I work with do want that, a little backyard. They want a garden. I think people are more conscious of gardens. I'm a big gardener, so I love it when somebody wants to talk about gardening and putting up a hoop house. And a lot of people have been starting that. And then the ones that want to get out, like in Cochiti, they feel like they're in a community, but they have all the amenities and they have space and they can walk around and feel comfortable rather than walking around in town. And then of course I helped actually just recently sold, it sold as land, but it had a charming but totally dilapidated adobe house and it had been in the family for well, over 100 years. They had the document from Franklin Delano Roosevelt,
Wow.
you know, confirming that this was their land, and they had that document and his signature and the whole thing.
Right. So we're at the end of the interview, but I have two questions about Coach T that just come into my head now. So you're saying that there is a elementary and a middle school out there, but for high school, would children have to come into Santa Fe, most likely Capitol High or something? They couldn't go to high school out there. If somebody had children, high school age
Right.
children, they would have to come into Santa Fe.
They go to Bernalillo.
Oh,
That's,
Bernalillo's closer than Santa Fe?
and also it's in the same county.
Oh, okay, that makes perfect sense. Okay, there. And then
Yeah.
the other thing you were saying about amenities, I don't recall when I go visit my friends out there, there's not really a grocery store. I think there's like the gas station has a convenience store, but for like
Correct.
major grocery shopping, would they have to go to either Bernalillo? What would be the closest town where they could go, like do like major shopping,
Hmm. Well, Santa Fe has the most for shopping. If you go from Cochiti, you go into kind of the south side of Santa Fe. So that's Cerrillos. So you have Lowe's, Home Depot,
Oh,
grocery
okay.
stores, Santa Fe Place, the mall, everything. So I think they generally go to Santa Fe more. Bernalillo has grocery stores and that sort of thing too, and they go there. And Bernalillo has other stores like nail salons and stuff like that. But I know that most of the people go to Santa Fe most of the time.
And
And
then in
it's
terms of,
about 35 minutes, maybe 30 minutes to Santa Fe, 25 to 30.
and what about
There's also a little town of Peña Blanca.
well, I was just going to say, what about
Go
Peña
ahead.
Blanca? Does that have anything going on there?
Not really. There was a place that was a little restaurant, but that closed. There's a little grocery store there, and that's actually the post office for Cochiti Lake.
Okay, good.
So that,
We are at the end of the interview. Is there anything you want to add or say at to kind of end the interview that people should know about? Of course, all your contact details will be posted along with this interview. Is there anything else you want to say at the end here?
well, I'd just like to say thank you for letting me do this interview with you, and I welcome anybody if they need any help with land or residential, or if I can help them in any way, I'm happy to do that.
Excellent. Again, I want to thank you, Connie, Santa Fe Properties, and we'll stay in touch. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.